Oh, I should show off my photos of my EQ stuff in storage sometime on stream. I might do that. We can do that today, maybe. I found a couple copies of EQ Atlas. You can see Shadows of Lucklin Japanese edition. That's kind of neat. Is that another, I think, Japanese? If it's Gamania, that's from when we did the joint venture with Gamania, and we worked with them on some stuff. And I wasn't sure if they were trying to get us into Taiwan here, or if they were helping us get into Korea. Anyways, that was like 2002, 2003. This picture's upside down. Thank you, Discord. More Ubisoft that look German? No, is that German? That doesn't seem like German to me. Seems like one of those close to Germans. Anyways, EverQuest Japanese edition official guide. It's like this thick. I probably should have like opened it up and took some inside pictures, but I could have sworn it's super thick. I'll do this the quick way. I'll just move this over here because you don't need to see it all that big, right? Like, but just to prove that you guys, I'm not bullshitting. I was a game master. Oh, I found my original contract as well. I don't think I took a picture of it, but I found my original contract. And whoever said, I think it was like Ryan Barker who said that, because I was like, I think we only got paid like $6 an hour in Southern California, which was hard or whatever. He was like, no, I thought it was more than that. He was correct. It was $9 an hour. So sorry, Sony, for trying to make you sound cheap. You did us pretty okay. And then, so I was a game master. See, I really was the GM of Talon Zek for a little bit. I've got so many of these badges. I just picked like 3. Oh, and it's fun too because this was E3. No, I only went to E3s in LA. All my E3s were LA. But Variant SOE back in the day. There's Talon Zek, April 6th. Wish I had the year on it. And here's my Planes of Power San Francisco fanfare badge. I had so many fanfare badges sitting there. Sean Lloyd, lead designer for expansions at Sony. There we go. So those are not, I swear I worked there. Armed and Deadly, the Babes of Champions. And then the Babes of Norath. You guys, you got to realize our marketing department was almost entirely female. So when people are like, how dare you? Wasn't our idea. Was not our idea. The team had 0 input. Oh, this is all from Champions of Norath anyways. So there you go. Wasn't even. Old Harley gas tank. What's some of the stuff in the background? AC/DC tablature book. The original sort of drawing of my tattoo on my ribs. German cookbook. Realms of Norath, Freeport. Honestly, if I had just ability to carry more shit with me, I probably would have loaded all this stuff up and brought it with me. Everfrost, Monsters of Norath, Lucklin, also known as Looselin if you're Canadian. Alcabor's Arcana, a motorcycle tank? Yes. Yeah, I had a little Sportster before I moved. A buddy of mine took it to California to keep it safe and it was just leaking oil everywhere, so I let him sell it. It's one of my dad. My dad had a little Sportster that he didn't ride anymore. So when I was in Austin, he was like, "Hey, if you fix this thing up, you can have it." So I wound up putting more money into it than it would have cost to buy it. But Befallen, what is this one? It's covered up. Anyway, Player's Handbook. Oh, here it is, not covered up, and it is in fact the Force of Fedar. Befallen has a backstory. It probably had a minimal backstory, and then a lot of the lore that you'll find in these books was actually created at the time of the book's creation, which isn't meant to take anything away from that lore. It's, lore's lore, it's good. You guys, you don't realize how little lore we were actually working with when we were working with EverQuest. Like when we got on the team, we would dig in every folder that we could find. We had one person on the team before we had layoffs, Lynn. And Lynn was actually, she was acting as archivist and trying to find information. Honestly, it was so hard to find any actual written down lore for EQ when we were there. So a lot of stuff we sort of made up as we go. And it's my belief, I mean, people that were on the team longer can confirm or deny, but my assumption is a lot of the richness and the depth of the lore that you see now after 20 plus years was probably created as an extension of the original sort of foundational lore that was there at the time. So a lot of it's new. I got a very blurry photo of the GM's guide. Sorry about that. The Temple of Soyuzek Row. Okay, so this one's fun. Here's a broken, I'm assuming Gold Master disc or a Gold Master backup. How have you been? So anyways, Prophecy of Grozmok was the original name of Legacy of Akesha. So, but it didn't roll off the tongue very well. So we had to go back and create a new name pretty quickly. Upside down again, apologies. Legacy of Akesha was, I mean, honestly, it was a bunch of features we probably would have given you for free, but we got asked to make an expansion in 4 months. So we bundled up some features that we wanted to do anyways. We knocked out 4 zones really quickly. The environment lead was really wanting to do the pirate ship, so he did Hate's Fury as like the 5th zone for free. He did it in his spare time. How did they determine that it was not a great name? The marketing department really hated the name. Really didn't like the name. So they're like, please give us a different name. So we went with Legacy of Akesha. Both the Grozmok and the Grozmok Stone and sort of the Akesha hints here and there, both could be related back to, you know, like Broken Skull Rock and the Trolls and some other shit anyway. So we've got an unopened gold edition. So that's kind of nice. Marketing department would have loved the titles of Gary Guy X modules too. They might have gone for some of the old like module names a lot easier, right? Because in all fairness, you know, some of those old names, Shady Dragon Inn or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they're so straightforward. I actually love that naming style a ton. I'm more of a fan of that sort of like vanilla fantasy style of naming than I am the Explat of Bluk, making you figure out some random ass stuff that we came up with. More boxes. I don't know if I pull some of the stuff out. I forgot to look at these cameras. I think these are EverQuest 2 launch party cameras where they're just cameras that you can take a picture. There's some EverQuest Godiva chocolates. Untold Legends, I'm assuming, for the PSP. Let's see. Oh, I do pull some of this stuff out. Little pewter dragon from the launch of EverQuest in Japan or something. A Dragons of Norath thumb drive. Honestly, I think it's just an empty thumb drive. Sheer26 said, yeah, I agree. There's something about 90s fantasy being generic that I love. The town and building names, the plots, etc. Yeah, I really, honestly, I'm not bullshitting when I say I love that style. Like, to me, it's an actual style. I love that a lot. I've talked to Hamada a fair bit about that. And yeah, don't be shocked if you see it. Backstory was when I got brought back on the team for Omens of War after Gates, they had like similar naming style for the zones that they were going to do. And when we went back, it was like a month and a half or 2 months into development, and they brought me back onto the team because it wasn't going very well. And so came back and we basically threw away the art, started over, like redesigned the expansion from scratch, like the naming and stuff. I was like, dude, let's just go with like Bloodfields, Wall of Slaughter, right? Like, let's get it back to as like hokey vanilla fantasy as possible on some of this stuff. Because I still can't, honestly, I don't know that I can name a Gates zone or a Gates NPC name. But that's, I mean, it's just a personal thing. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like there's like a group of us that sort of feel that way. Minis 2, where's this stuff? Just marketing gifts to hand out to retailers or to the team. We'd have a lot of this stuff internally. Like, I didn't even remember this. Lost Dungeons of Norath, little keychain. Oh man, I should have actually grabbed that and used it. Look at the little skulls on here. That's pretty dope. Tennessee Feet Monk. Gates became an expansion that people appreciated later. Gates was just, the team was in a tough situation, and they had a short timeline. They lost their tech director, design director, and their expansion lead, me, overnight. We literally got pulled onto EQ2 overnight. We had no choice in the matter, and it created a really tough situation for the team. I've got a coin. Voluntold, yeah. So you're saying it's EQ2's fault. I'm okay with that statement. Shadows of Luckland puzzles. I've got a couple of those. Another set of keychains from Gamania. Gamania is really good at branding. I was so blown away when I visited them in Taiwan. There was like 3 of us. I'll show you a picture in a minute. When we got to their offices, because they're mainly a marketing company, but then I think they were like marketing and they did gaming magazines, but then they became a game publisher and they had like 50 online games. They were so ahead of the curve. Like, this was like 2002, I think. They had it figured out. They had like one global sort of avatar system, like a, point system. You play different games and your achievements in different games would add points to your account, and points could be used for keychains and backpacks and all sorts of shit like that, and paying for stuff. And it was just like, they're so ahead of the curve, and their branding everywhere, like in the company, was so good. I mean, look at that. Like the tangerine slice is their thing. Even up here, that little, you know, cutout on there. Like that's really throwaway cup of water in there. It's like beautifully branded. Everything was very good. Planes of Power launch menu. We had, for starters, pizza margarita, Caesar salads, entrees. Please choose one. I never ever just ate one because there's always leftovers. Atlantic salmon, braised short ribs, raviola verdura. Okay. Dessert, fresh warm fruit crisp with vanilla ice cream. Wines by the glass. We had a nice Chardonnay and a Merlot, and it was in La Jolla. That was actually a really nice launch party. We worked our asses off, and I felt like we deserved that launch party. Another Runes of Kunark. Here's the back of it. I feel really dumb because I don't know, is it in Mandarin or not? So when we got to Taiwan, we were blown away. Oh, I wonder, I don't know. I should have opened it and took pictures of the map and stuff, like check that out. But yeah, there were MMOs advertised everywhere in like 2002 in Taiwan. They were like advertising Moo online and all sorts of stuff when we were there. You could pick up games like this in a 7-Eleven. I think it was also the first time that somebody basically just handed me a disc and was like, here, play this MMO. I forget, we were at the mall or somewhere. They're just handing out free discs. We came back and was like, dude, we should give the game away for free and just charge the subscription. I don't think anybody was very receptive to that idea at the time. You have a cloth EQ map and a geocache in Maine. That's badass. I think if EQ2 wasn't competing with, I think if there were different expectations for it, it had more time and it wasn't competing with the launch of WoW. And it would run on people's machines. It was it's a pretty cool game. Not necessarily my preference, obviously, but so Japanese edition Trilogy. Were there many EQ players in Japan back when you had access to numbers? I honestly don't remember Belfaster. It seemed like there were not a huge amount, but like a worthy of at least a server or so. I mean, there's still Japanese players on P99, right? All right, so this was the crew that went to that went to Taipei. So this is John Lawrence. He's actually become, like, I don't know what he is. He's a high-level dude. Last time I looked, he was high-level. But super smart guy. Spoke Mandarin, Cantonese, and like 2 other languages. So we got in a cab. And the cab driver is just speaking like whatever, I think like Mandarin or something. John Lawrence immediately goes into like brilliant, fluid, gangster ass sounding like Mandarin. Did they keep up with player numbers back then? It was kind of Wild West days of MMOs. We didn't have access to anything resembling the sophistication of metrics that we have today. We would get like rough churn numbers. Like if churn was going up, we'd get told to revamp a zone or something. That's kind of how Chardock happened. And we would barely get any info. We knew our player count, we knew our concurrence, so we knew how many subs we had, we knew how many concurrents we had rough churn percentage that we'd get. Beyond that, not a lot. I mean, the average like product manager or on any free-to-play games got like 1,000 times more info about the game than we did there. And then I went from Sony to where that was kind of consistent in terms of the level of information that we had, at least at my level, to King's Isle Entertainment. King's Isle Entertainment, I think they had pretty sophisticated analytics, but the only people allowed to see those analytics, according to what I was told, were the people that worked in the business development, like the biz dev folks and the analysts. And so like the teams would be told, we would be giving analysis of those metrics. We were not allowed to see the metrics. That's because it was a private company owned by one man. And I heard he made a ridiculous amount of money, which had we known about it, there'd be probably a revolution. Anyway, so John Lawrence, he was also the first project manager I'd ever worked with. He came from other companies. He had worked in China for years and came from a more sophisticated sort of game development culture. And so he came on for Planes of Power and helped us sort of think about project management for the first time. But mainly we would get upset that he was coming at us with a clipboard and chase him away. This is Robert Pfister. Robert Pfister was our producer. He came to us right as we were doing Planes of Power when the old team left. Awesome guy. Very, you know, I think in some of the interviews, he comes up. If you watch some of the interviews that I've done with like old EQ folks, you can find it here. EQ history. You know, some people love him. Other people didn't get his very crass and I don't think he could work at a modern tech company these days because he would say all sorts of obviously inappropriate shit. He was basically like a never-ending episode of Family Guy, the shit that he would say. And so, yeah, he was the make a timeline of a timeline guy because we weren't used to scheduling. We weren't used to any of that stuff. And so he's like, bring me a schedule. And we're like, huh? No, we can't. We don't know what we're doing yet. And he's like, all right, then go make a schedule of a schedule. You know, basically make a timeline telling us when you'll actually have a timeline. For as much as he just made fun of people and wrestled with us, he's a giant man. I'm 6'2". He's sitting down and scrunched over, and he's clearly still like 4 inches taller than me and like 300 pounds or whatever. Yeah, I'm 6'2", and this guy dwarfs me. And he's the kindest, nicest, would go out of his way for anybody, like on the DL. If somebody had money trouble and he found out about it, he would take care of them. If somebody had like an issue, you know, he'd probably be the first person to actually find you a decent like therapist or something. The guy is the sweetest dude ever. He just was constantly busting balls, right? And in a way that we're not allowed to do in current year. Well, pretty much just America. Anyways, well, you know, everybody's got their own types of humor. That's why we hang out with the people that we hang out with. And that would have went over like a fart in church. Have you not farted in church? People fart in church all the time. So anyway, that's me down here. And for whatever reason, it looks like I'm actually eating my nameplate, I guess. That's the three guys there. Robert Pfister, you wouldn't have had Planes of Power without him, like his humor or not. Another one of these taken out of the case. So this is like an in development map of Planes of Power. We don't even have names filled in on these yet, I don't think. So this was like one of those, as we're iterating, let's print it out and kind of look at it. We know the names to these days. Box of maps. A mouse pad. A notebook that I made in kind of a hacky fashion. My original EQ disc. So that's what got me started. Here is a little tchotchke from when I was... So I think I've told the story that I discovered EverQuest by playing Quake and was doing like Quake ladder matches on heat.net and then just was having a very bad ping day in Alabama, as is not uncommon in Alabama, or at least at the time where I lived in Alabama, and was curious. So I was asking the guy that I was in the match with, because we had some time until the match was over. I was like, is there an RPG that's like 3D like Quake where I can play with other people? And he was like, you should check out EverQuest. And I got EverQuest that day from the software store at the mall. And that is the box. And I don't know if I bought the guide when I bought the guide, but I definitely got the guide as well at some point because you need that. Heat.net is now a heating and cooling company. Oh man, rip.